let's start with Patrick Marleau.
Okay, so Patrick Marleau rumored, we're hearing. So we also know Pierre LeBrun reported that Marleau and Joe Thornton are in talks with San Jose, but there's a difference there between what the team wants to offer as far as term and what Thornton and Marleau are looking for. So now we're also hearing the LA Kings really want to go in hard on Joe Thornton. A lot of teams interested in him. And then we started to hear this rumor, are the Toronto Maple Leafs in on Patrick Marleau? 37 years of age. Why would they be interested? Why would they be making phone calls? And does it make sense?
It makes sense if you can get Marleau on a short deal. If you can get Marleau on a 2-year deal, it makes a ton of sense. I don't think you'll get him on a 2-year deal.
Because isn't that what's holding up their negotiations with San Jose?
I'm sure given the choice between signing a 2-year deal here or signing a 2-year deal in San Jose, he would stay in San Jose. The issue with Marleau, he's a very productive player. The problem's going to be, how much is he going to command in the open market? And look, there's no centers out there. There just aren't. Mm-hmm. So, if Marleau can get a 4-year deal at $6 million from someone else out there. Now, don't forget, he's also 37, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. So 2 things there. Number 1, whatever you give him counts against the cap, no matter what. Hit by a bus, decides to become a circus clown, whatever it is, he's going to count on your cap no matter what. Unless you get an LT, long-term injury thing.
Yeah. Because of his age.
Because of his age. Any player over 35, if you're signed past your 35th birthday, then the contract counts. I shouldn't say it. If you sign the contract after your 35th birthday, it counts against the cap. The second part of Marleau is that he would fit with your team, with this team, in the short term. But long-term, the salary cap implications would be pretty heavy for them. If you get into a 3 or 4 year deal with Marleau, now you're renewing Matthews, Marner, Nylander. You're getting into that cap jam, and you still don't have a defenseman. Pierre, we were talking about the 2 San Jose centers, Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton. What do you think happens to them?
Well, it depends on what Patrick's term is. Patrick, from what all reports scored, is that he wants 3 years. Yeah. I can't. You're talking about 2 players drafted 1-2 in the 97 draft. That's a lot of years ago. So there's a lot of wear and tear on the odometer, especially with Patrick, who spent his whole career in the Western Conference. He doesn't look like he's slowing down that much. He had a real solid year, I thought, and Joe Thornton seems to just keep motoring along. He's such a determined competitor, much more so now than maybe earlier in his career. All that being said, I think it comes down to term and what Doug Wilson thinks is digestible for both those players. If Patrick wants 3 years, I can't see San Jose being amenable to that. And in terms of Joe, if he wants 2, I got to think they'd give him 2. I really do. But the 3rd year, I think, is a tough one for the general manager to cross.
And you know what's funny, Pierre, is as much as people in San Jose and elsewhere have been critical of those 2 players over the years, they would leave gaping holes in that lineup.
Oh, my gosh. Hugely gigantic holes. Part of the problem is for people in the East, they don't watch San Jose play that much. They don't realize how important Marleau and Thornton are to that team. They talk about Joe Pavelski. They now talk about Martin Jones. They talk a little bit about Mark Edwards Vlasic. But they don't talk nearly enough about what Thornton and Marleau mean to that team. In particular, by the way, Joe Thornton. Everybody knows Brent Burns because of what he's done and his magnetism and everything else. Joe Thornton is really the ringleader of that group. You know it, I know it, anybody that's around that team. He's a very, very dynamic personality with that organization.
Marleau hasn't missed a game in the last 8 years.
It's amazing.
He's not missed a game in the last 8 years. So if you're asking about durability, he's also, back-to-back 25-plus goal year. If you're talking about a player who is, 37 years old, who would justify gambling a 3rd year on, he might be the one.
I agree with you. I just don't know if for another team that might work. I don't know if that works in San Jose. I just don't know, Gord. Again, we don't know the inner machinations of all this, but man, oh man, I can totally see your point. I think it's a very valid one.
We're talking with Pierre Maguire, NHL on NBC analyst. Going back to the Leafs, we're hearing their name being thrown around with certain players. We heard about Colin Miller, obviously Travis Hamonic. Now we're hearing about Patrick Marleau. Are you getting the sense that they're making calls and inquiring because it's what you do as a team? If you're a GM of the Leafs, if you're Lou Lamoriello, that is your due diligence to call and just figure out what's going on with people. But are you getting the sense that they're really not being all that aggressive? Like, there are some teams where they need to make a deal, they're desperate to make a deal, and it's pretty obvious that that's what they're doing. But are you getting the sense that the Leafs maybe are calling because that's what you're supposed to do, as opposed to really being aggressive to get a deal done?
No, I think one of the things that Lou did is probably go talk to Coach Babcock and say, okay, Mike, where do you think we have issues? Where can we be better? What do we need to do as a group to be better? What is at the top of your shopping list that we can help you with to make your team better going forward? Mike would remember Patrick Marleau, I think, very, very strongly from the 2010 gold medal game in Vancouver and what he was able to do with that team. I thought Patrick had a tremendous Olympics for Team Canada. So Mike would just go flash back to that and say, yeah, he brings...